Hello, I'm Bruce DuPuy. Coming up today on News Talk, the PEPCO-EXELON merger. Getting approvals across the Mid-Atlantic, but not in D.C., where utility regulators have deemed the deal to be not in the public interest. Mayor Bowser says her involvement makes the merger now a win for city residents. Is she right? We'll get opposing perspectives today from our first in-studio guests, D.C. Councilwoman Mary Che and Jim Dinniger, head of the Greater Washington Board of Trade. Then,
let me say something that may not be great politics, but I think the Secretary is right. And that is that the American people are sick and tired of hearing about your damn emails.
Thank you. Me too. Me too.
The first Democratic presidential debate, what analysts are saying about the first on-stage encounter between Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders, and two local pals, Martin O'Malley and Jim Webb, and the other guy. We'll talk with former Politico editor David Mark and with News Channel 8's Alejandro Negron.
From News Channel 8, this is News Talk with Bruce DuPuy.
We have such a great lineup for you today. Hello, everyone. Welcome. I am delighted to have you here this time. We begin with that proposed merger between Chicago-based Exelon and the local utility company PEPCO. That proposal has won approvals across the Mid-Atlantic region, but not in the District of Columbia, where regulators have deemed the deal to be not in the public interest. Mayor Bowser has entered the discussion substantively, and she says the revised deal is worth supporting. Is she right? Joining us now here in the studio, D.C. Councilwoman Mary Che, a Democrat. She represents Ward 3. She chairs the Council's Committee on Transportation and the Environment. Jim Dinniger is here. He's head of the Greater Washington Board of Trade. It's great to have both of you with us. Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you.
Let me ask a simple, kind of short question, not the main issue, Mary, but just to get a brief sense from you. Do you view this to be a merger, or is this a takeover of the local utility by a larger outside company?
Oh, to me, it's clearly a takeover, and it's a takeover that will harm the District of Columbia in the long term, and is to the benefit, it's a bonanza for this larger company and for the shareholders of PEPCO.
Not a merger, a takeover, as you
Yes.
see it. Jim Dinniger, can you talk about merger 2.0? What does the new deal have that the first iteration lacked?
Well, this is a takeover of PEPCO because PEPCO needed to be taken over. Candidly, it had not been operating at what we need in a world capital. Somebody wants to come in and take over Metro, give me the price. And the issue associated with what the opportunities are on this second round of the merger, I will tell you that it's been referred to as sort of trinkets and baubles. It's nothing more than that. Well, I will tell you it's significantly more than that. There's an enormous amount of money, a lot of relief for ratepayers, an amazing increase, 10 megawatts of solar. This really is a catalyst for a lot of change for a lot of what the opponents had been clamoring for, and now they're on board. It's been a remarkable remarkable offer from PEPCO's purchaser, Exelon.
Former critics are now on board supporting the deal.
Many of them. You've got AOBA on board, DC Water on board, you've got, including the People's Council and the mayor and the Attorney General's office have all gone through this deal, thoroughly gone through this deal. And then they negotiated quite a bit more.
And what's your expectation with regard to rates?
I think that rates will hold steady for several years. Partly it's guaranteed, but then beyond that, it's always up to the Public Services Commission. There's been a lot of criticism, how's Exelon going to pay for their nuclear? They don't do it on the backs of the D.C. residents by jacking up rates. It's prohibited and restricted by the Public Services Commission.
So steady rates paid by local ratepayers and lots of bonus consideration for the District of Columbia. Why does this not yet sway you, Mary Jo?
Well, that's the PR campaign, but if you actually look at what's on the table, it is a betrayal, really, of the District of Columbia and its ratepayers. Whatever they seem to give, even the modest amount that might be an actual giving, will easily be overcome by the first rate increase. And let's talk about rates for a second. They definitely will go up, and they will go up far more than they would have if PEPCO remained, independent of Exelon. There's a guarantee, quote unquote, that the ratepayers won't pay the rate increases for the first few years, but it doesn't mean that rates won't go up. There's no guarantee that rates won't go up, even in this immediate period. What they're going to do is they're going to set aside a certain amount of money, and they're going to use that to pay the rate increases, so that once that money is used up and the lid is lifted, what will happen is Exelon will recover what it put aside, which it's paying to itself, by the way, and then on top of that, the rate increases that occur right away will be the new base for the new rates that will increase later. There's no question in my mind, no matter what PR is thrown out here, that rates will increase and they will increase significantly.
Can you speak to that issue?
Yeah, the Public Services Commission is responsible for the rates. They don't automatically go up. The Public Services Commission is responsible for this. They have the authority. It's statutory authority that they have. They're an independent body. And beyond that, PEPCO and Exelon have made it very clear about not only the investments they're going to make, but how they get efficiencies of operation and economies of scale. This is the biggest power company coming in to make us more efficient, more effective, and then you get these economies of scale up and down the eastern seaboard. The savings are significant, and they get passed along to the residents of the District of Columbia, not rate cases on their backs. I have to tell you, and you're a lawyer, council member, a guarantee is a guarantee. It's not a so-called guarantee. It's a guarantee enforced by the Public Services Commission.
Well, the Public Service Commission does have to approve rates, but let's look at what happened in Baltimore when Exelon took over the utility there. For the first 4 years, rates went up every year. And as I'm telling you, when you say guarantee, what is the guarantee? Let's look at this deal very closely. It's a promise that in the first few years, the rates won't be applied to the customer. It doesn't say that rates won't go up. It, in fact, will recover those rates. And in fact, some of the money that they appear to be giving to us is actually money that they're paying to themselves, both this money for the rate increases, but also money for low-income people. It'll be money that Exelon is paying to itself. Rates will go up, there is no question about it, and the Public Service Commission will approve it because rates are guaranteed in the sense that if these are the costs, if this is what they're incurring, then they'll be able to get a reasonable rate of return.
Is there a lawyer-drafted false sense of stability in the fine print to create the impression of stability when behind the scenes that's not what's happening?
I'm not sure I understand that.
I'm trying to pivot off Mary Chay's, what I hear as the thrust of her accusation about what the deal contains if you dive into the fine print.
The deal is very straightforward. They've been ridiculously transparent about it. It's all out there, not only in testimony, but in the filings. And I will tell you that Baltimore loves BGE, loves what Exelon's been doing in the community. PEPCO up in Philadelphia loves Exelon and what's been done in the community, but also to the ratepayers. And now we get to combine all of those resources, make it more efficient, more cost-effective, and the savings go down the line. They're not being balanced on the backs of ratepayers. And I will tell you, then when you're looking at solar, then when you're looking at wind power, then when you're looking at resilience, I have to say there are a handful of people that are opposed to this that will never be satisfied regardless of what's getting done. I'm tired of the smell of spoiled milk from the power outages around this region. I want the biggest kid on the block to be able to protect us and get us to where we need to be on innovation, technology, resilience, cybersecurity. Exelon does that and more.
In terms of some of the reliability issues some people have experienced with PEPCO, is it possible that having an outside company come in can improve the performance?
I want to say two things about that. The reason why PEPCO was doing so poorly is because the Public Service Commission wasn't sitting on them. Now that they've imposed requirements on them, their reliability has improved greatly, and they could continue to improve. It's not a question of resources or money. It was a question of will. So we don't need Exelon to improve reliability, and we're on our way there. The other aspect here is that if Exelon is saying they're going to give us all of this stuff, they're going to share resources, they're going to bring things to bear, it is at odds and a conflict with Exelon's claim that it's not going to co-join or co-mingle some of its attributes so that we ultimately pay the cost. We will ultimately pay the cost by that co-joining. But I want to say something else. Another serious problem with this, first of all, people should ask themselves, why is Exelon willing to pay 25% over the market value, over $1 billion more than the value of the company? Why do they want our little PEPCO? Why does this predator lie in wait and want to get PEPCO? They want to get it because even though they're claiming they're going to protect jobs, that's for 2 years, then jobs will be lost. Even though they're holding people harmless for a couple of years for paying the rates, not increasing them, they will get their money back big time. But Exelon is a bad company in the sense that it is economically challenged. It has a bad 20th century model with big facilities and long-distance transmission lines. It needs a steady source of customers to pay the bills. And also, forget about all this environmental, they're going to give us this and give us that, one-time deals. What they do everywhere is they oppose renewables, they oppose progressive environmental policies, and they will put a brake on what we're doing here in the District of Columbia.
Jim Dinegar.
I don't even know where to start. I mean, every single one of those things is just sort of made up out of whole cloth. They've been ridiculously transparent. It's all on the record. They have a track record around the country, in Chicago, in Baltimore, in Philadelphia. They will make their money based on the efficiencies of operation, the economies of scale. They are bringing together the Eastern Seaboard. And I have to tell you, we have to stop acting like a small company and a small town. We're the nation's capital in the greater Washington region, and it's high time that we get to be more resilient. Ted Koppel's got a new book coming out, scares the heck out of me, called Lights Out. And it's what happens when a cyber attack hits the grid. We're not out for a couple of hours. We're not out for a couple of days. We're out for weeks. And we're the target for plenty of bad people around the world. I want to be protected. Exelon gives us that. I don't actually know what the council members' solution is, if you'd like to municipalize this situation. But I have to tell you, PEPCO has not delivered the goods. Exelon's coming in to deliver the goods. And if not Exelon, what's the solution?
I want to pick up on that very question in a moment. But before Councilwoman Shea, you do that, Jim Dinegar, there's been the accusation that as Exelon's end-of-life nuclear facilities need decommissioning, that the big bill for that gets spread over ratepayers who didn't benefit from the life of those facilities. That would be, in part, if this deal goes through, residents of the District of Columbia. Is that something people in the district need to fear?
The rate is paid for the electricity that's used. It is not paid for the generation. And so there is more than a firewall between the nuclear facilities that Exelon has and what they're doing as it relates to buying the power. Candidly, PEPCO is going to be able to buy the power, whether it's wind, whether it's solar, whether it's generated, not coal, because they've moved to a large part of clean. And if it's nuclear generated, all the better. But they're not required to buy it from Exelon. They'll buy it from the lowest provider.
Can you speak to the notion of a firewall against having to be involved in
They claim that there's this ring fencing, but the fact of the matter is, anybody who knows the expression creative accounting knows about allocation of costs, and that will be easily overcome. The fact of the matter is, Exelon wants these companies because they guarantee them a source of customers. It is true that there's a possibility for people to choose different distributors, but what happens is they get the benefit of inertia. And what happens is, we know historically, is that people will stay with the main company, and so they'll get the benefit of that. And by the way, Exelon being so wonderful, let me tell you that a wide survey was done of utility companies, and Exelon got the worst customer satisfaction scores among energy utilities, the worst customer satisfaction scores. So let's not paint this company as some wonderful entity that's going to come and give us all these wonderful things. It's just not so.
That will scare some of the people listening to us now, Jim.
I think that's what the council members' comments are designed to do, scare people. Creative accounting is code for illegal behavior. There is no illegal behavior whatsoever. And I keep saying they've been ridiculously transparent. They're a highly respected company. I can't believe we're besmirching the name of Exelon based on a survey that was done when they received countless awards for being highly regarded as the best in customer service, the best in the utility business. And candidly, PEPCO's been the worst hated company in the country. I can't wait to get Exelon in here to make things better.
Given that this merger has gotten a green light elsewhere, how much leverage and flexibility does D.C. have? What if Maryland and Virginia, Delaware, whatever? What if? It's not Virginia, but
well, we have to be.
What if other areas now served by PEPCO go with Exelon? Does that leave the district as some kind of orphan?
No, we have to be concerned about what goes on here. We can remain a distribution company. In fact, PEPCO itself sought to be separated from power generation in the 1990s, precisely because, as a simple distribution company, instead of producing and therefore wanting to sell as much, we could be a distributor and get best prices that we could, and also not be impeded as we move to modern-day 21st century renewables and progressive environmental policy. That's where the future lies, not in these old, big, cost, draining plants that we have that Exelon owns.
there's more to talk about. We are way over on time. We'll have to end here. Mary Chey, Jim Vinegar, we appreciate your time. Great conversation. Thank you very much for coming in and being with us today.
Thank you
very much for being here. When we return, who won last night's Democratic debate and what the encounter means for the fence-sitting Joe Biden.